Okay, so here we have slope-intercept form of linear equations. Now we talked about this in class, but I'm still going to do a quick little review here. Y equals mx plus b is a way to write a linear equation. So the m here is what we normally call the growth. We also know that another word for this is slope. And we will learn more about this in the future, but for today's purposes, we're focusing on growth. Okay, so m is the growth. Now b is what some of you called the starting point. And we also know that this is called the y-intercept. So it's wherever the line crosses the y-axis. So if I were to draw a little x and y axis here, and we have some line going through it, okay? Wherever it crosses the wherever it crosses the y-axis, this is the y-intercept, okay? So we always know that the y-intercept, because this is the x-axis here, this is 0. So the y-intercept is always where x equals 0. And that's very important because for this quiz that I'm doing this video based off of, you're given tables of x and y values, which are basically points on the line, and you need to look at the table to see where x is 0. And once you see that, you know that that is your y-intercept, okay? So here, B is always your y-intercept. So let's go ahead and put this knowledge to work with looking at a table of a linear equation. We have to write the equation in the form y equals mx plus b. So the first thing I always look for is, do I see the starting point? Do I see the y-intercept? And I do here. We know that it's where x equals 0, right? It's wherever x equals 0. So I'm going to go and highlight where x equals 0 in my table, and that means that my 1, where the y is, that is my y-intercept. INT is short for intercept. So this is the y-intercept. So here it's going to be a plus 1 because it's a positive 1. And now we need to find the growth. So in order to find the growth, I always check to make sure that these numbers here are going by 1. If that's the case, if they're just going by 1, then I can take one number and subtract the number that's before it. So I'm going to subtract 1 from 5. And this is going to tell me how the growth came to be from 1 to 5. If you do 5 minus 1, you get 4. So that's telling me that I'm adding 4 every time. Is that the case? We can test it just like this. So 1 to 5, 5 to 9, and 9 to 13. If our growth is 4, that means 1 plus 4 must be 5. Is that true? It is, right? 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 plus 4 is 9, and 9 plus 4 is 13. So you see here how every single time it is the exact same growth. And you need to have that in order for an equation to be a line. It has to be the exact same growth. It has to be consistent, constant, the same growth every time. And in this case, it is. So we know that our growth is a positive 4. So that means that my equation that you're going to write on the quiz online, it already has y equals here. So now you just need to put the 4x plus 1, just like we did here. So I always recommend you use colors to help you set it up. But then once you put it in here, you can just write it exactly how it is. 4x plus 1. Now this video, I'm going to go rather quickly, so please pause anytime I finish a problem so that I can move on to the next problem without wasting any time in the video. So just pause if you still need time. All right, so now here's this one. This one's nice. I see right away my y-intercept is where x equals 0. So it is 0, 20. So that means that my y-axis, my line crosses my y-axis at 20, positive 20. So this is my y-intercept, positive 20. So now we can do the same thing as last time where we take the second number and subtract the first from it to see, okay, how did I go from 20 to 15, from 15 to 10, and from 10 to 5? If it's a line, it means it has to have a constant growth. So 15 minus 20, do that in your calculator. You should get -5. So here my growth, you want to check and see, is 20 minus 5 equal to 15? It is, right? So 20 minus 5 is 15. Is 15 minus 5 equal to 10? It is. Okay, so that says, okay, cool, so it's working so far. And now you want to check, is 10 minus 5 equal to 5? It is. So that means that my growth worked every single time, so I did find the correct growth in this linear equation. So now my equation down below, I'm going to put, they already have y equals, so it's going to be -5x plus 20. Okay? All right. So if I slide on down, make sure you pause before, go back. Ooh, this one's different. The first thing I like to look for is the starting point, but I don't see the starting point here. Remember, the starting point is where x equals 0, but here I have 1 through 4. No zeros there. Now that's okay, we'll be able to find it, but first now we have to find the growth in order to be able to find the starting point. So I have to see, how do I go from 4 to 6, from 6 to 8, and from 8 to 10? It must be the exact same growth every time. Now some of you probably already see it, what you have to add each time, but if I didn't see it, I would take the second number and subtract the first away from it, basically going backwards. 6 minus 4 is a 2. So that tells me I must be adding 2 each time. 4 plus 2 equals 6. Yes. What about 6 plus 2? Does that equal 8? Yes, it does, right? 8 plus 2, does that equal 10? Yes, it does. Okay, so that means that my growth is a positive 2. Now we still need to find the starting point. Well, since this is, all of these numbers are going by 1, I know I can go back 1 to 0. And since all of these numbers are adding by 2 each time, I can go back to 4 minus 2 is positive 2. So now you guys see here, I have the other point here where my y-intercept is. So at x equals 0, my y-intercept is a positive 2. And I just used the growth and I went backwards, the same amount of the growth. So now I know that my y-intercept is positive 2. So my equation is y equals 2x plus 2. Now make sure to pause the video. All right. Okay, so now here, ooh, I do see the y-intercept in this one. See if you see the y-intercept. It is where x equals 0. Always remember that. So in my table, I see x equals 0 right here. So that means that my y-intercept is -3. So this is my y-intercept. And that's nice. It makes us have less work to figure it out. All right, so now we have to figure out the growth. So I have to see, how do I go from -9 to -6, -6 to -3, and -3 to 0? Again, I can take the second number, -6, and subtract the previous number from it. So it's -6 minus 9. So this minus, you're always subtracting. And you see here that -6 minus -9, these negatives become a positive. So this is really -6 plus 9. Now if you plug that in, you're going to get +3. So that tells me that my growth is positive 3. I'm adding 3 each time. So we can test it. The way you test it is you do negative 9 plus 3. What do you get? You should get negative 6. And that is correct. And now you can see, okay, what about negative 6 plus 3? What do I get? If it's true, if the growth is a positive 3, then I should get negative 3. Because right here, what I'm doing is I'm testing the growth in every scenario here. So this is the growth, trying to see if this growth works every time. Negative 6 plus 3 is negative 3. So that one does work. Okay. And then what about negative 3 plus 3? Do I get 0? Does that one work as well here? It does, right? Whoops, that's not what I wanted. So I know that my growth, positive 3, does work every single time. So my growth here is a positive 3. So my equation is y equals 3x minus 3. Make sure you guys don't put any spaces between anything as well online on the quiz. Okay? So I believe this is my last one here. Let me move this stuff over a little bit. All right. I do not see my starting point. So remember, the starting point is where x equals 0, and we don't have any x's that are 0 here. So first, let's go ahead and find the growth. How is the table changing? Really, I should call it the rate of change or the change, because growth makes it sound like it has to be a positive every time, but that's not true. It could be a negative growth. That's fine. So it's really just how is it changing every time. So how do I go from 8 to negative 1, negative 1 to negative 10, and negative 10 to negative 19? Well, again, you can take the second number and subtract the first number from it. So negative 1 minus 8, put that into your calculator and see what you get. Whatever you get should be the growth. Negative 1 minus 8 is negative 9. So now we can test it. If I do 8 minus 9, what do I get? If you get negative 1, then you're good. You're in the clear. And 8 minus 9 is negative 1. So what if you subtracted 9 again? That would be negative 1 minus 9. What do you get? Now, you should get negative 10, right? If you put negative 1 minus 9 in the calculator, you should get a negative 10. So that one works as well. So now we do negative 10 minus 9. What do we get? If you get negative 19, then you're good to go. And you should get negative 19. Negative 10 minus 9 is negative 19. So now we know that our growth is definitely negative 9. So if we need to go backwards, right? So these are each going by 1, so that's perfect. Go backwards 1. And then I need to go backwards whatever my growth is. So instead of subtracting 9, I need to add 9 to go backwards. I'm doing the opposite here. So adding 9 to go backwards, 8 plus 9 is 17. So now this tells me 0, 17 is my y-intercept. That's my starting point. And you guys could test this as well. You can see, okay, well, for my growth, I'm subtracting 9. So what's 17 minus 9? Is it 8? 17 minus 9 is 8. So I know that my starting point is indeed a positive 17. So my rule here is y equals negative 9x plus 17. Now again, make sure to pause the video before I end it. I hope that this video helped you out with this quiz and helped you improve on your skills with y equals mx plus b.